One of the main pillars of the 2014 release of the Creative Cloud is Get Mobile. And I'm joined now by our ever mobile and all-knowing evangelist, Rufus. Thank you for joining us, Rufus.
Thank you.
Now, you spend an awful lot of time on the road, so I'm sure this particular part of the release is of real relevance to you, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Can you now talk us through some of the ways in which we've addressed being able to be creative whilst on the move?
Well, first of all, we have new apps that work on the iPad, and also Photoshop Lightroom on the iPad and the iPhone. And this is all tied together with this creative profile that we have now, which is linked to the Adobe ID. And basically, all of these apps link to that creative profile. So I find all my colors, I find my brushes, my assets, and I can really start working mobile. And everything I do on my device gets synced back to the cloud and back to my desktop computer. So basically, with this creative identity and these mobile apps, the circle is really closed now, because I can really work on the road. And this is one of the important things that we thought about when we created these apps. We didn't want to make toys. We didn't want to make funny things to use. So we really concentrated on making an app that's very good for a professional to use, but easy enough to use for somebody who's just entering the creative world or sphere and wants to create on the go. And that's what we did with these apps. We have Adobe Sketch, which is a sketching app that allows me to link my sketch to Behance as work in progress, or publish a whole collection of sketches to Behance as portfolio work. We have Adobe Line, which I'm going to show you in a second, and Photoshop Mix, which is a really nice concept in this mobile world, because this is something that we are starting to talk about. It's called the Creative SDK, the Software Development Kit. And basically what we're doing is we're giving access to third-party developers to our technology.
Wow, fantastic.
So, for example, in Photoshop Mix, there are filters like upright or shake reduction, or filters to remove things, and
content-aware technology,
content-aware technology. And as you well understand, all these technologies use a lot of computing power, and these devices are not yet strong enough to support these things. So what the Creative SDK does, it sends a preview of that image to our servers, applies the filter that you want.
The heavy work,
the heavy work is done on our servers, and then the image comes back to the device itself.
Fantastic.
And then we have, for this whole mobile world, we also have these two new devices. And this is Ink, which is a digital pen, which allows me to draw very precisely. It has pixel point technology from Adobe here, and it is over 2,000 pressure levels that I can use while I'm drawing. And a digital ruler, which allows me to finally draw straight lines and circles and geometrical objects right on the iPad.
Really precisely.
Very precisely, something that was impossible before. And the other very cool thing is that this is all linked to my Creative Cloud account. So with this pen, by pressing this button, I can access a whole bunch of tools and my colors. I can access my Creative Cloud clipboard as well, which basically allows me to copy things from Adobe Line, for example, and go over to somebody else's iPad and paste it there.
Wow.
So it's really a new workflow that we're presenting here. And let me open Adobe Line for a second. Here I have a few examples. For example, the coffee cup that I was working on with Michael. And this is the initial idea that we then brought to Illustrator, to Photoshop, and into the 3D printed cup. I can draw in perspective. Here are some tests that I did. I can draw very perpendicular lines. All these things that you expect from a ruler, right? And a few sketches with some interface design, or in perspective again. And here I tried to show the transparency in the marker tools that we have. Some typography as well, because this is very interesting, because in Adobe Line we have the ability to use French curves. something that you would use in for designing things like that. And here's a little drawing, a little sketch that I did of the Venus. And as you know, the Venus was is with us with Illustrator from the very beginning, and we used the Venus to show how curvy and nicely shaped the hair was, and that Illustrator was able to do that. And I did a sketch with just straight lines. But let's jump right in and make a new sketch here. And basically what we have, I'm going to go through this tutorial. I mean, you can learn everything here if you want to, but I want to start drawing. Absolutely. Oh, and one thing we notice right away is that we also have a digital ruler. So it's not necessary to have these ink and slide. You can use any type of pen or even your fingers to move that ruler. Of course, it's very easy with slide to draw, because it also has a button on top of it that allows me to be very precise.
So we're actually going to be getting ink and slide later on in the year in the UK. So in the meantime, it's no problem to use these applications with the virtual ruler.
And again, these applications are free, so everybody can feel free to actually use them and play with them. So I'm going to turn off the digital ruler for a second and just show you the tools that we have. We have some pencils, a 2H, an HB pencil. We have some ink pens, a brush, a marker, and of course all of the colors here. The cool thing also is that I can really decide the size of the mark that I want to do on the paper and the opacity of it. And I can even decide whether I want to have terminals. The terminals is when you put the pen down and when you pick the pen up again. And then I have access to all of my cooler themes. And the cooler themes are part of my creative profile. And of course I can add color themes from popular color themes on Cooler. I can go to My Cooler, etc. This last button here is also very interesting, because this one allows me to actually draw in perspective. So I can really decide how the vanishing points are inside of my drawing. And when I turn this on, I'm going to say OK to this and use the ruler. You will notice that as soon as I put it down, I have the ability, and let me just take a pen again here. Let me go back here and take maybe a 50mm pen. And when I draw with that, I can draw really straight lines. And if I change the orientation of the lines, I can really precisely start drawing in perspective. And as I said, on the pen itself, when I press on it, this little
the connection to your profile,
this
right?
set of icons will appear, and I will be able to access my cooler colors from here. I can go back here and change the size of my pen. And of course, this is also very important when you're drawing in full screen, when all of this interface isn't there. And let me point out the Creative Cloud clipboard for a second. So if I press here, the Creative Cloud clipboard opens, and basically this clipboard are drawings and sketches that are saved inside of the pen. So I can, and also in the cloud. And when I move to another device, I can simply paste these clipboards on somebody else's device.
So anything that you're using regularly, any
it's very,
sketches that you want to repeat.
very easy to share the sketches with somebody else. And of course, talking about sharing, I can also say get feedback on Behance, so I can ask people, what do you think about this drawing? I can copy the image to the Creative Cloud, so have it in my Creative Cloud folder, send it to Photoshop, send it to Illustrator, or share through the other social media that may be connected to my Creative Cloud account.
And if I share it to Photoshop, what then happens when I open up my Creative Cloud Photoshop application at home?
Well, it's quite automatic, because if your computer is on and Photoshop is running, basically when I say share to Photoshop, it'll suddenly appear inside of the Photoshop window. And
you don't even need to open it yourself.
Believe me, the first time it happened, I was like doing something. I said, oh, nice, you can send it to Illustrator. And I continued doing things, and then I looked at my screen, and there it was. It was pretty crazy. And another very interesting thing as well, and let me get out of the perspective grid a second, I'm going to take it off, is that we can use, let's dismiss that, I can use trace packs. So for example, the French curves. So if I use the French curves here and go back with my ruler, let me just go back here. Here is my French curve, and very precisely I can use the French curve to draw curves. And Also interesting is there's a whole bunch of stamp packs. So for example, if I need to put people or trees or skaters or safari animals or canines. Do you like canines?
Love canines.
Yeah, let's put a little dog in this picture here. And of course, if I press on the button on my slide, I can cycle through various types of canines. Well, which one do you like? Oh, this one is the big one, right? So if I tap on it, I can say, okay, oops, it's gone. Let me just do that again. Let me put the canine here, okay, and make that slightly bigger, and double tap, and here it is. And then I can start sketching on it and use that. So yes, it opens a whole new way of approaching sketching and using these devices that these days, frankly, we always have with us. And it really makes sense inside of a creative workflow to start sketching here, bring it to the desktop applications, and then bring it into the creative workflow.
So can I just ask you at this point, Rufus, because we were asked a little while ago by one of our audience members, what we're looking to do with Android devices, because obviously these are iOS applications.
Well, right now our research tells us that the vast majority of creative professionals are Apple users. So that's where we concentrated on. Now, if these numbers change in time, of course, we will investigate that and we will develop for other operating systems as well. But there's not only Android, there's also Windows Mobile, there's there's all sorts of operating systems that we may consider in future. And right now, the vast majority of our users use iPads and iPhones and things like that.
Great. Thank you very much indeed, Rufus. Some great insights there, some really, really good tools for working on the move, as well as the hardware, of course. And when it comes to mobile, it's not just about creating on the move. The Creative Cloud gives you all of the tools that you need to publish to mobile also, be that responsive websites, applications, digital publications. We've got much more on that shortly, so do stay tuned.